You've had to remortgage your house.
But working, as you say, with buttons and view screens, well, you're not always going to be seeing stuff. I know acting is using your imagination, play acting, without wishing to make it sound as simplistic as that. Basically, in many respects, that's what it is. But I understand now that you get lots of computer guys will come in with diagrams and sometimes miniatures to give you an idea of what it is you are seeing through a view screen. Can you tell us about how you work with those kind of guys and when they came in the set with artwork or whatever?
Well, we were showing all the sort of previs stuff. So for a lot of the action sequences, before you film a single frame of film through a 35mm camera, they actually designed the scene on a computer. So you can, particularly with the action stuff, you can basically see exactly frame by frame.
It's like the old storyboard style, but taking it to the next level.
It's on a computer, and
Yeah.
they can play you the whole scene. They had drawings of us, speech bubbles and all that sort of stuff, and that was exactly how they shot it.
So, actually, it seems you are laughing and you seem relaxed, which I'm pleased for. It seems if it was a very enjoyable part of your career so far, you've enjoyed it. Now, then as they say, the shit hit the fan.
Hard.
And that's true, and it's fair to say. Now, I can honestly say, as Chris did, and we were very privileged to be invited to a preview. The first 20 minutes, I was half in tears and half in the back of my seat and the edge of my seat, and I finally thought, this is, after 35 years, a genuine live-action Thunderbirds film as it should be. There was all the Tracy brothers with the costumes, the vehicles looked great, there was thunder, there was disaster on an oil rig. And then that bit finished. Now, obviously, you guys are not responsible for the way a film's edited or written. Looking back on it now, and I don't think there's anybody from Universal or Working Title here, so you can speak this freely. How did you feel when you saw the finished piece? Did it become what you were envisioning when you were originally taken on board to work on a Thunderbirds film?
Well, we always knew what the script was, and I think in fairness to Jonathan Frakes, he took a lot of slack for what the film was in the end. I think he did a fabulous job with the material that he was given, because he, as a director, received the script and said, okay, do your thing. And he was very keen, as we all were, to make it as authentic and to stay with the spirit of the original series. And I do think that we captured that, and I do think that the first 20 minutes of the film are exactly, what you would hope for.
Real people.
Then obviously the story develops. The problem is that we've only done phase one of what was envisaged. So it was a lead-in for an audience that weren't necessarily familiar with the Thunderbirds franchise, with the view to it continuing. They did commission a script for
the second one
film.
That'd be brilliant.
But that just never happened, unfortunately.
So, as I say, I mean, it did. I think we were talking earlier on. It did seem as if, for no reason, there were certain people in the industry, writers, that just for no apparent reason had the knives out for the film before they'd even seen it. I mean, as a professional person, how did you feel about that?
It's always a shame, because whatever you think of the film, finally, the amount of work that goes into a project like that, the amount of people
Phenomenal, isn't it?
who put themselves on the line to create a project like that, and there are so many elements. To get the film right is so difficult. And I mean, name 5 films that are perfect. There are very few of them.
Exactly.
And particularly with a film like that, when you have a responsibility to an amazing series that already exists, and an amazing setup with the characters, and but the responsibility of, you're spending a lot of money, and ultimately they've made the decision to make a kids' film. So no, it's not going to appeal to people. When people do get their daggers out, it's just it's really unfair and it's thoughtless because it doesn't help anyone.
No.
I think that
And it doesn't help the project.
the thing that's so disappointing was that in the kind of critical response to the film is that as Chris said, if you sit down the target audience and show them the film, they're like that. I mean, we saw preview screenings with the kids there watching it, and they were just speechless. Even and all the way through the film, in fact, not just for the first 20 minutes, because they are being introduced to something that's new and exciting. And I do think that there was a certain kind of media decision, wherever that comes from, for it not to be supported.
Accepted and supported. I remember we said before, we laughed about the fact that they were big shoes to fill. When you were speaking to friends and relations, how were they saying? How did they react when you said, "Oh, I'm going to be Virgil and I'm going to be John up in Thunderbird 5"? What were you getting from friends and neighbours and pals when you were first?
It was a really big deal. Yeah, loads of support, and it was, it was really, really exciting. An amazing job to get, and everyone said they could sense from when we told them about it that it was a big deal and that it was exciting.
And it was hugely exciting to do. I mean, we as a group of friends, we still.
Do you still hang out a bit?
And both of us have done a lot of other projects, but not necessarily kept in touch with those people. But Phil, Lex, and Phil sends his apologies, by the way. He's sitting by a pool
on
in
Venice
Malibu.
Beach.
It's a really tough life.
I understand that as glamorous as it may have seemed, I'm sure it was pretty hectic. That first couple of weeks after the film was released, I mean, you was here, there and everywhere. What was that like? I mean, I know you said it was almost a bit Beatlemania, particularly in Japan.
Yeah. It was incredible.
It was, I mean, movie stars for the week.
Yeah, it was just treated amazingly well, and being able to go to a country like Japan, which was just an amazing experience, but to be so welcome there. Literally from when we stepped off the plane, there was a crowd of people in the airport with pictures that they wanted signing stuff, and we were like, this is going to be a weird week. and to the point where you'd go to a restaurant in the evening and there'd be a crowd of people.
They'd have found out where we were going.
They'd find out where we were going, so we'd get out of our cars and be swarmed by people who'd had gifts and just really generous, sweet. Like going in and the chef standing up and clapping when you walk into the restaurant.
What was the deal with the Japanese boy band doing the voices, and that must have been very
the biggest band in Japan, a band called V5 or V6.
We6.
They dubbed us into Japanese, and at the premiere over there, they played a concert before, and then we met each of our sort of Japanese counterparts
on stage and how to
and we were given a few lines of Japanese to speak, which caused uproar. What was it?
Because it was so bad.
Thunderbirds Psycho, or no, they just absolutely loved it.
Well, there were 6,000 people at the Japanese premiere in the auditorium. It was in the Budokan where the Beatles played, so it was a big deal. Quite intimidating.
And we were saying as well that I don't know if any London-based fans saw the ridiculously huge Thunderbird 3 in Trafalgar Square.
Fantastic.
Apparently that's the only time Westminster Council
the only time Westminster Council actually allowed anything to be put in Trafalgar Square that isn't on a pillar, because it's a commercial basis. But that was a fabulous thing. I think it's in Blackpool now.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Well, I've certainly hogged you for enough. If you want to speak up, I'll stand up so I can see, because the lights are on. Is there any questions from the audience at all? Don, there's a guy there with glasses.
Both of you, what was the most physical sort of action scene that you had to do where you weren't replaced by stunt people?
For me, when Thunderbird 5 gets hit by the missile, and I get blown away from the desk, I had a stunt double for that, and I did the initial explosion where I'm leaning over, and they had cannons firing out bits of rubble, polystyrene rubble, and dust. And,
Don't tell him that.
yeah. I was still scared, believe me. Fortunately, we only had to do it once. I asked them to sort of double and triple check that there was nothing else in those cans. If anyone had it in for me, like Dom had like put something in there that I actually had. And I was harnessed up. And on action, you give the line, which was hard to give because you're basically just thinking, okay, as soon as I finish that line, I'm going to get all that crap blown in my face. Trying to make it last as long as possible. And then set it, and they rigged up loads of pyrotechnics as well. And it was important to get it right first time because it took sort of an hour and a half to set up and it cost a lot of money. Unfortunately, we did, so I then get pulled back sort of 10 feet. And then the poor stunt guy gets pulled back 25 feet, and then you see me get up again afterwards. So it's, but the stunt guy was great. You kind of think that's a brave job, and you don't. It felt really good. He gets all the damage, and then they go in for the close-up, and it's me getting up. But yeah, that was the biggest action moment I had.
Dominic?
For me, it would have been the oil rig rescue sequence. I had a stunt double, but I decided, God knows why, not to use it.
Did Jonathan give you enough leeway? Because sometimes they'll just say no. Was he pretty cool with that?
Yeah, I mean, the reason I discovered later why they got a stunt double is because it was 6 hours. We started shooting at midnight. It was, and there was a huge oil rig kind of set up in the back lot of Pinewood, and loads of stunt men ready to throw themselves off, and the wave machines and all that sort of stuff. But I had to stay up about 100 feet up in a crane on my own for 6 hours in the cold and wet, and it wasn't that dangerous. I mean, it was obviously, if I wanted to jump over the top, I could.
That really sounds like Virgil. I was on my own. Oh yeah, Virgil, you captured the character.
It was just freezing, and I finally came down, kind of shaking and blue, and they had to rush me off. No, they rushed me off and pouring boiling water over my feet to try and get. So
you'll be doing that again then?
So yeah, next time they offer me a stunt double, I will use it.
Right, any more? There was a lady very quick in the front there.
Yes, question and a comment. Comment is, you guys were wonderful in the film. You really were. I mean, you were perfect Virgil, perfect John. Thank you very much. And the question is, a lot of the promotional photos and on the cards and the like show images of you that are not in the film. So was there a lot of edited footage, like more of that sequence with you after the blow up of Thunderbird 5, and there's one with you at the cockpit of Thunderbird 2, and none of that appears. Was that actually filmed?
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff that never made it to the final edit.
Sure, I mean there always is. They film so much stuff, and not everything's going to be there. And sometimes the photographer who's on set, he takes that. Sometimes the pictures aren't lifted directly from the film, but there's a photographer taking photos as you're shooting it.
Mm-hmm.
So pictures like that would have been the case. But also with the poster, there was one poster which had us on the front, and we're holding helmets under our arms. We never took that photo, so that was sort of superimposed on. I was like, look. So yeah, it is weird because they do manipulate things sometimes.
The Thunderbird 2, the flying Thunderbird 2 was actually shot for the arrival at the oil rig. Virgil was meant to be flying and then go into the rescue pod and leave Dad and Gordon to kind of pilot the craft, but that never made it.
It's a pity we missed that.
Yes.
Is there a gentleman at the front?
I'm just wondering if you had a chance to talk to Bill Paxton about the weightless work he did in Apollo 13. Because I know he did that in a jet doing a parabolic.
Yeah.
Had a comparison with the wire work.
Absolutely, he was funny about
They
that.
call it the vomit comic.
Yeah.
Who was it? I can't remember the actor that was with him, but they go up and they sort of go straight down. I think it's Kim Bacon. They have sort of 5 seconds where they can actually shoot.